So we have the record button over. So hello. Yes, Michelle from Conyers, right here at home.
I know.
Welcome.
A local girl.
Yes,
Can you hear me this time?
I can hear you. Thank you for joining.
Excellent. Yeah, happy to be here.
I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. So as others come on, please go ahead and take the poll. Let us know how you have been balancing things in your life over the last several months, how you felt a little bit. One, we know what kind of company we're in, and I think it'll help our panelists when I share the poll out, and they'll be like, well, we're in good company with each other. So go ahead and drop in the chat box. I see others that are joining on. Let us know where you're from, where you're calling in from. I was excited when I looked on the Eventbrite and saw that we had people joining from all over. So please take a moment to just go ahead and say hello in the chat box. It could be morning where you are, so maybe it's not lunchtime. So go ahead. And it's 12 noon now, so I know people are still signing in. So if you missed the introduction, go ahead and drop in the chat box, say hello. Tell us where you're from, and make sure you take a moment to take the poll. And I'll leave the poll up a couple of more minutes. Are my panelists ready? Are you guys ready? You ladies ready to share your knowledge today?
Oh.
Right, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Have fun. So have fun. This is not one of those kind of laid back, we're going to be stiff kind of webinars. So Sherry, you don't have to be nervous. It's not that kind of webinar. This is real talk kind of webinar. Hello, Linda from the UK. We're global, yay! Thanks for joining us. I guess it's not lunch where you are. It's 5 p.m., so it's happy hour. So I hope you have your favorite happy hour beverage with you as you're chiming in. So thank you for joining us. We got Alex from Massachusetts. I don't have any stories about Massachusetts. I've not been there before, but welcome. Thank you for joining us. Take the polls as you're coming in, and I'm going to leave it up a couple of more minutes as people are still coming in. We have Sherry from San Diego, sunny California. Thank you for joining. I guess it's not lunchtime where you are either, so it is morning, I suppose, then. So you're getting your favorite breakfast beverage coming on. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I know you guys are muted, but you have the ability to unmute if you want to say hello for a couple of more minutes before I get ready to close the poll, and then I'll make sure everyone is muted so we can hear our panelists share their knowledge today. Hi, Jason from Atlanta. How are you today? Thank you for joining. We got a dude in the house. Yes.
Show up.
Yes, share the knowledge, because what we balance as ladies is a whole lot. So make sure you take the poll. I only see a few. Yay, some people are taking the polls now. Gonna leave it a little open for a little bit longer. It's 12:02. We're gonna get started promptly at 12:05. Give people time. I know last time we had people having troubles logging in, so I'm gonna do a quick check to my email, make sure I didn't get any distress signals sent up. But this time I tried to send out a reminder of how to log in. So hopefully no one will have any troubles today. So go ahead and take the poll, drop in the chat box, say hello, you're among friends. Yep, and I did get some people having problems.
Talk about balancing. My mom is like, I told you, I don't want this Zoom in my text message. You have to email it to me. Now I have to email it to my mother because she goes, I didn't want it in my phone. I want it on my laptop.
and she dare not send it to herself.
Right. Balancing. We're balancing.
Yep. Always. Even this morning, I've had to do a little balancing. Me and this dog, we're going to have it out.
Okay.
So I have more people joining. It's 12:03. Hello, Renee. Renee, you're from out here in Conyers too. Hi, Sarah. I'm glad you're able to join. Hopefully, I know you're joining through the phone. Hopefully you can still see the poll. Go ahead and take the poll. We're going to get here shortly. I have some emails coming in with people having problems, with Zoom putting a lot of their um, kind of safety features in. Sometimes it's not as easy. So hopefully we won't have a lot of people. So go ahead. I'm going to get ready to close the poll here in about 10 seconds. So if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and answer the poll. Let us know how you've been feeling about balancing over these last several months. It's not been easy. It's been different. If you struggled before, man, you had some new issues come up with kids at home. So that's why I can't wait for today's discussion. I'm biased with every topic I pick. There are things that I am personally dealing with. And I figure if I'm dealing with it, I can't be alone. So also drop hello in the chat box. And the poll is getting ready to close. So if you haven't answered it, it is closing now. Maybe you'll get a chance. And it is closed. At least I pushed close and it's not closing. Now it's closing. And then I'll share the results once we get started. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're able to join us, whether it is your happy hour time or breakfast time, wherever you're calling in from across the US or across the globe. Thank you for spending time. This series, the Brown Bag Virtual Lunchtime series, is all about having conversations that inspire, educate, but also connect us as a community. We don't have to know each other to have lunch together, right? Because now we can have virtual lunch together. So if you were with me for last month's session, we kicked this series off with just talking about the idea that we're all going through some kind of transition and we get stuck sometimes in our career. And we had a lineup of panelists that kind of had their own challenges. They may have not been COVID and all the things that are going on now, but they had challenges and they learned how to pivot in their career. This month, I'm so excited to welcome 4 new lunch buddies with me today to talk about balancing life and all that other stuff, because that's what we do. We balance life and a ton of other stuff. So I'm going to keep your mics on mute. You're welcome to join by video if you want to show your faces to our panelists, but it'll help with keeping background noises out. And to my panelists, you guys have the ability to unmute yourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And also, if you have questions to any of our participants today, to our attendees, please don't hesitate to just drop them in the chat box. There will be time for Q&A at the end, and we'll open the lines and let you Q&A, but you can also put your question there. So who's ready to get started? I'm ready to get started. I'm ready to get started. Mm-hmm. So today, what I'm hoping will happen out of it, so not only will we learn from each other, we'll learn from the stories from our panelists, but we also will pick up strategies that will help each of us kind of go through life a little bit different, a little bit easier, because we've learned from someone else that's experiencing the same thing. So hopefully I'll get, maybe I won't get it to advance. Well, we don't have to see the slide to know who we have in the house as panelists. So we'll start with introductions. And I'll go with the order that you ladies are on my screen. We'll start with Sherry. So if you can tell us a little bit of yourself and then tell us what you're balancing right now. And I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So my name is Sherry Snipes, and I am the owner, master designer of Event Designs by Sherry. I am a balloon artist. And I've been in business for about 3 years. I am married to my husband of 16 years now, and we have 3 children and 1 4-legged child. I have a 19-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 14-year-old. So, I have lots of hormones raging all over the place. So what I am balancing is just life, everything, but being a mother, a wife, a mother, a business owner, a designer, a friend, a daughter, just all of that. And it does get very challenging.
Absolutely.
Toy, you're next on my screen.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Jones, for the invite. I feel so strange calling you Dr. Jones, but that's another personal.
We're sorority sisters.
So, in my heart, I want to say Dre, but I'm not going to do that. I am a mommy of a precocious 5-year-old, Zachary, and a proud wife to my husband, Patrick, who is serving us as we speak on deployment in the United States Army. So I'm originally from the Sunflower State of Kansas, but I became a Georgia peach in 1992 when I started at Clark Atlanta University. And so I just stayed. And so I've served parents and students in the community and education for the past 24 years as a teacher, an instructional coach, assistant principal, and now a principal. And so just a member of numerous organizations, as Dr. Jones says, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and Jack and Jill of America. And so some of the things that I'm juggling, certainly since my husband's been gone since October, just been trying to juggle our household and my child and his emotions with his dad being gone. And then of course, school abruptly ending. I've had to run a school from home. I said I was principaling from the couch since March 13th, and just trying to deal with those emotions of my staff and supporting them and helping them to adapt in one day, basically, to this online teaching and learning that was thrown our way. And just, as the other young lady said, just balancing life. At home, I'm the lunch lady, the nurse, the mommy, went back into the classroom, and now I'm teaching. And so just a whole lot of things that I'm juggling. But I'm making it.
Yes, you are. Next is Tamara.
Hello, everyone. I am an executive coach. My name is Tamara McGriff. I hope you can see that on the screen. And I own a coaching consulting company called McGriff Coaching and Consulting Services. And you can check us out online at mcgriffinc.com. I love what I do as an executive coach. By background, 20 years of experience in human resources. So I pivoted out of corporate. And so I've been in this entrepreneurial space for 2 years. So I'm juggling that. I'm juggling being a mom. I'm working with my daughter. She's 23. She launched her own cosmetics line. And so providing support to her in that space. And my son Najee, he's 8 years old. And so boys have a sort of different expectation in terms of what mommy is supposed to do. So that's breakfast, that's lunch, that's dinner. And fun time, play time, everything else at the same time. So, he'll wake up and he'll call me in the middle of, when I'm working with a client, because he wants to know where I am, what I'm doing, and it's time for breakfast. And so, being in quarantine, since all of this has happened, it's just brought other things into perspective. So in terms of balance, there is no balance. It's about how do I manage it all, because at the same time, I'm sister girl, to my homegirls. I am, playing personal assistant to my mom who's disabled. And then I have my other sisters. And so, when we talk about that sort of emotional availability, how do we be there for others and at the same time be there for ourselves? So, this is, just one of those moments where we all just have to make choices about what's most important. And so that is what I'm learning throughout all of this is I need to manage it, but I also need to manage it in the way where I am being intentional about the things that I am investing my time, I'm giving my energy to, and at the same time, bringing in some self-care for me.
Thank you. And last but not least, Tanisha.
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Jones, for having me. I appreciate the invitation, and to all of the ladies on the panel, thank you. I'm honored to sit amongst you. I, too, am the playmate of a 9-year-old boy. So that's what I do 24/7. I'm a playmate of a 9-year-old who wants breakfast, lunch, and dinner and everything, and play. We just stopped playing ping pong just so I can come work and do this, right? So in the middle of all of that, I am, excuse me, an entrepreneur. I left corporate America 5 years ago. I was an executive producer at CNN. I've been in the television industry for a little bit over 20 years. And I left CNN because of work-life balance, among other reasons, trying to juggle life and the season I was in with a baby, and also going through a divorce. And I was drowning. I was drowning in so many ways personally, and it was impacting me professionally as well. And so I made a decision in that season in my life, excuse me, and that was about 5 years ago, to launch and to jump into entrepreneurship. And it's been wonderful. I am the owner of Perfect Pitch Media Group, a boutique PR firm. And so we have clients all across the country. And so I'm excited about that. And I also, in the midst of all of that, got a vision to start a scholarship foundation. And so I am the owner of the Ezekiel Taylor Scholarship Foundation. And I am proud that in 4 years, we have awarded more than 70 scholarships to young men of color who've been impacted by gun violence, like myself. My father, unfortunately, was killed in gun violence in Chicago. So managing, I call them my bonus boys, my bonus children, and then my biological child, and then my clients, who can sometimes be children. And then this past semester during COVID, for the couple of past semesters, I've been an adjunct professor in the journalism department at Kennesaw State University. So I tell everyone my last kind of normal day was Friday the 13th, March 13th, right? That was our last normal day of teaching, and I was forced into virtual learning with 210 students, along with teaching my third grader how to do fractions. And the best I can do at fractions is my wine glass is full or half full or fourth. So I struggled, multiple meltdowns. So that is my introduction.
Awesome. So thank you, ladies. So we're going to get ready to get started. Do you guys remember that game, Truth or Dare? I'm not Truth or Dare. That is not what I meant to say. Two truths and a lie is what I meant to say. Where, excuse me, that sometimes that you can present a truth or it could be a lie to you. So we're going to go with that kind of format, because when I think about a work-life balance, and I think about all the advice that I have gotten from when I was raising my kids, well, still raising my kids, but when they were tiny, and to the point that they are now this teenage one, I would get all this advice, and sometimes it would work for me and sometimes it would not. So I hope everyone that's on the line, I saw some more people join, are excited. Go ahead and drop in the chat. Tell us your name and where you're from. We'd love to hear that one. But when I think about this whole thing about balancing life, and that this schematic is how it really feels. Can you guys identify with this picture of this woman? Just, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I got deadlines, I got relationships, and then whoop, now my kids are home from school and I got to figure out where am I going to strategically place everyone. If you're like me and I have 3 that were working here at home, it was a lot. And so we're going to talk in terms of the truth. So I'm going to present our panelists with a truth, or it could be a lie to them. And I want you guys to kind of tell me what your thoughts are. Truth number 1, you see it on the screen. Achieving work-life balance is a daily intentional choice. So who's going to take this one? Is it a truth for you, or is it a lie? I sound like a game show host, right? Who's first? Achieving work-life balance is a daily intentional choice.
You know, can we just speak up?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
I would think that it's definitely an intentional choice. I think back to when, you know, as we say, that fateful day of March 13th, and then the next week coming, initially we thought we were just going to be out of school. Oh, we'll just be out a couple of weeks, you know. And so I was just, personally, I was just running, you know, I wanted to keep this sense of normalcy for my staff. And so I was having staff meetings and all this, you know, just so that we could kind of keep them connected. And then, you know, probably about 3 weeks in, you know, I realized we weren't going back, and the crash hit. And so I had to intentionally plan out my day of what that was going to look like, because I ended up working from like 7 o'clock in the morning to 7:30. And as I stated earlier, I have a 5-year-old. And so I was kind of trying to, weave all that together. And so what I found after I realized this was going to be a long term is that I had to really say, okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to take a break. And then so it was an intentional choice to kind of balance because I was wiped out. I was worn out. My son was, acting out because he was feeling neglected, and so I think for me, that has been a truth. And ultimately, as we moved into the season of, being long term, I've had to do things like that and delegate.
All right. So delegating came up as a high one for you too. It's a truth.
Mm-hmm.
Another panelist want to chime in. Is this a truth for you or a lie? This intentionality.
So for me, it was a lie.
Okay. Tell us more.
So when everything hit, it was just, okay, so I have time to clean up, clean out those closets, those drawers, stuff that was over in the corner that needed to be tended to. So I did take advantage of that. But then maybe I think like what she said earlier, just a moment ago was, when we realized that this was going to be long-term, people began to shift in their mind as far as how can I plan a celebration outside? So for me, for the balloon industry, we began to pivot and began to do a lot of decor outside. So once people once they started to catch on with that, it was like the phone just kept ringing. And I was like, okay, having a hard time keeping up with the orders. And then my 14-year-old, I said, okay, look, I'm gonna show you this cookbook and I need you to find something in here. And she took to it. She cooked meals from scratch, like every single day, potato soup and grilled pork chop with fried pineapple, sauteed rice or something, but everything was good. Yes. So for me, it was, I had, my intentions were good, but I had a hard time keeping up. Yeah. So I had to take these orders because I couldn't let my clients down, right? I had to make sure that I delivered what they needed. So on the back end, I was like, okay, the house is not going to be tended to. If you want to eat, figure it out. So I was not intentional about anything other than fulfilling my orders.
That's real talk. Tamara, Tanisha?
Yeah, so it's a truth for me because I have a work from home business. Before COVID, I could go out to client locations, but primarily when I'm coaching from my home office. And so I had been used to being home alone. And so when all of this, sort of quarantine happened, I had to share my space with three additional individuals, right? So my son, my daughter, and, my son's dad, right? And so now it was, okay, how do I allow for all of the extraness, right, of everyone's personalities? And, there's different times, who's sleeping, who's up, my son is being homeschooled, my daughter, she's like a zombie, right? So she's a night walker. She sleeps during the day and she walks all times during the hour at night. So, and I also had to split my office so that she can also continue her business. And so it was just a mindset shift for me because I had to think, okay, when are my meetings? When are my breaks? When am I coming up to spend time with them? When am I checking in? When am I taking downtime for myself? When am I going to shift from working down in my home office to now working on my laptop in another part of the house so that my daughter can come in and then, handle, her online presence. And so when we talk about intentions, yes, it's intentions because, during lunch, I'm making, from 12 to 1, I'm prepping for dinner, but I'm also making lunch. And then I said to myself, okay, wow, how you do that check-in and you start feeling that stress that starts coming up in here, So it said, I'm the queen of telling people what to do, right? So now we're going to start delegating. And so now we are all working together as a team because that is what is required at this point in time. So no, there's no more mommies going to do everything. This is about what everyone's role is going to be going forward. And now let's have the conversation about, is this possible for you? And what support do you need? Because I'm going to tell you what I need, when I need it, how I need it. So let me know what you need from me.
All right. I'm hearing a theme coming up. Let's see if it'll show up in your response to this one too, Tanisha, about delegation and stuff. So truth or lie for you?
That is definitely a truth for me, but I'm a queen of outsourcing.
So this delegation, you have a new name for it. It's outsourcing.
Outsourcing. I outsource cleaning my toilet, mopping my floor. I outsource, meals being done. I outsource a lot in order to help me be intentional, right? To be intentional about my day, to be organized. And when I realized about 3 weeks in of COVID and I'm mopping my own floors, I had a meltdown. I was like, who got time for this? Nobody got time to be mopping floors and cleaning toilets, right? Like I outsourced that because I just didn't have time for it, and I'm blessed to be able to do it. So there are a lot of things that I realized that I was outsourcing to help me be organized and to help me be able to spend time with my son and do the things that I do, that I had to now take on those extra jobs on top of the jobs that I was doing. And I think my mother still may be in. My mother was joining us, and she would tell you, I called her several times, like having a meltdown. And when you are having a meltdown, the person that you call is the person that will smack you back into shape. And so you got to have that accountability partner, right? And to pull it together. And so my mother happens to be that for me. So I'm having a meltdown. I've got 200 kids online who think I'm their mom as their professor, and I'm trying to manage them. I had 25 scholarship students who had to be forced to move out of dorms, like my college students who had to be moved out of dorms. And it was a mess. It was a mess going on. And then my son is trying to figure out his class schedule and when to be in front of the Zoom camera. And I was about to lose it a couple times. I'm just honest. And I'm outsourcing, mopping my floors in the bathrooms and cooking. I was like, this is just too much. And so I called my mother one day and I was about to straight lose it. And she goes, well, I picked cotton. In 19, so keep talking about growing up in the segregated South and Jim Crow laws, picking cotton in the hot sun and farming fields. And she's like, and you're complaining? What are you complaining about again? And then she had to do a self-check, right? You need somebody to help self-check you. And you pull it together and you go, I can do this, right? No self-pity here. You're going to have a moment or two where you're just kind of like, oh, I'm falling apart. But you got to pull yourself up and you got to have that person that's your accountability partner to help you keep the train on the tracks and learn to let some stuff go. That floor may be sticky. We may have had a TV dinner more than I wanted to have a TV dinner, but you got to learn to let some stuff go. You can't, we walk around with an S on our chest and we try to fulfill that as much as we can. But sometimes you just got to let it go for your own sanity.
Yeah. Love it. I heard delegation. Did you guys hear these strategies? Delegate or outsourcing, like our sister Tanisha does. Outsource it. Or sometimes you just got to put the big girl undies on and just handle your business yourself. It is not easy. So thank you. Let's go to our next one. We made it to our first one. Number 2, which should be coming up on the screen shortly. Maybe. Don't you love technology?
You gotta love it.
Okay, so let me see if I can force it to go. So number 2 is achieving work-life balance cost. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show it. It costs something. According to Tanisha, it costs a little bit of money.
Well, it costs a career in television too, to be honest. And it's funny, I was handling the public relations just last week for for the Rayshard Brooks funeral in Atlanta that happened last week, because Ebenezer is one of my clients. And so out there, I ran into like tons of my media friends, and I ran into a good guy friend of mine who still works at CNN. And we're catching up and we're talking, and I asked about the wife, and he goes, well, she asked for a divorce. And I'm like, what? Like, y'all were the sweetest couple. What happened? And he said, this industry is just not built for families. And I said, you think so? And he said, yeah. And when you look around in my industry, you're on the go, you're chasing stories, you're on planes, you're traveling, or you're 24/7. It does not create an atmosphere or a supportive system for families. You know, you don't get to go to birthday parties, Christmases, weddings. I worked for a 24/7 news agency. My phone laid by my bed like this all of the time. And so every time there's a plane crash or something happened or breaking news, you're in the building. And then they were so smart about it. You know, we're in the building at the Omni. So whenever you work so late, they tell you go to the Omni and sleep. Like, they book you a room in the Omni. So you had no excuse that you can't get to work, you got to leave work or whatever. They made it so you could be at work all of the time. And it was just complicated having a young person, a new person, me wanting to be a mom. That lifestyle was hard. Even though it's hard for me now juggling all of it, at least I own my time. At least I own my time and can decide to do yes or no. But at CNN, I couldn't. So it kind of cost me. Does it cost? Yeah, it cost me a career in television that I just could not maintain and keep up as a single mom. It cost tremendously.
So that is your truth.
Yeah.
Other panelists, work-life balance costs. Is that a truth or a lie?
It's a truth. It costs you your time.
Yep.
It costs you, I call it your mental well-being, because, you know, I think we put on ourselves expectations in addition to expectations that others put on us, you know, depending on our relationships. And so, you know, for me, you know, when you hear about stories about people, you know, ending relationships during COVID, so, you know, my son's dad and I, we fully separated during COVID. But, you know, I have to give him a shout out because, you know, he's on it. And so, you know, he helps me have the balance that I do need. And so he understands that. He didn't understand it so much when we were together because, you know, I'm a driver, I'm an executor, you know, I'm running, doing my thing. And so when you look at how do you know, when you bring kids into a relationship, I think one of the things that we should be talking about is how are we going to start managing it when we start, you know, expanding families. And we never really had that conversation. So he thought I was going to be more of a sort of mom versus more of a career-oriented person, which I continue to be in addition to being a mom. But he had to take on the role and additional responsibilities that I couldn't take on. And so he's mom, dad, you know, and so, you know, and that just requires a conversation, right? Okay, so here's what I am able to do and what I'm not able to do, and here's what's important to me. And so, you know, if those things are important to him, then he needs to pick up on that and take responsibility for it. And so that's where we are today. Now, did it cost us our relationship? Absolutely. You know, does it cost relationships with others? Absolutely. Because I could tell you when I first had my daughter, I had a best friend and I was working for Traders at the time. And so you know what those hours are like, right? So I'm up on site 6 o'clock, which means that you need to be at my house between 5 and 5:15 if you're going to be my sitter. And so, you know, if she's late, then I'm late. And that cost us our relationship because I had to fire my best friend so that I could keep my job. And so, you know, those are truthful moments, right? And we never repaired our relationship because she couldn't understand what it meant to me in terms of, you know, my brand, my integrity, you know, how I want to show up for work, and also what I wanted our sort of work relationship to look like. You work for me, I pay you. At the same time, we're best friends, but there's a boundary between those two, right? And
Yes.
so
I think both, I'm sorry, were you still?
yeah, so yeah, absolutely a cost, and you have to be prepared to deal with that.
I love the fact that both of you brought up the fact that there are boundaries, how far you're willing to go, and it will cost. Either you pay the price to achieve a different kind of balance, it looks very different, or you pay a different price to achieve the balance that you want. Anything from Sherry or Toy on this one, that it costs to be balanced. Got to give up something to get something.
You do. And I know before COVID, as I became an administrator, of course, you want to do well when you move into those type roles. And so I found myself, when my husband was still here before deployment, just working and working. And when I would come home, I would just sit on the couch, and I was tired and I wasn't interacting. And so that did cost me a little bit of our intimate relationship, and not always, physical intimacy. I just mean that intimacy that occurs between a husband and a wife. And I had to kind of check myself. And again, when I came home, I would turn work off, and then I would pick it up after everybody went to sleep. So, so that was somewhat of a balance. But even now, so that was a cost.
So it costs your sleep too.
Cost me my sleep, yes.
Uh-huh.
But then as we've transitioned into COVID with my son, I don't know about everyone else on the panel, at times I felt like such a bad parent. And I felt like a bad parent because,
Yes.
there's a certain amount of neglect that goes, and that sounds bad. You are of course you want the best for them, but you also have to do, maintain your livelihood over here. And so that has been such, that has cost me, because some of those behaviors that, we had built up and I taught, and they've gone to the wayside, because sometimes he's off the chain. And so I know that, I'm going to have to, kind of reel that in a little bit. But that has been a cost with him, and just that relationship. Someone else said that whole play with me, and so that. But then on the front end of work-life balance before COVID, I had to learn how to balance that. Otherwise, I was just my family suffered a lot in my ambition.
Yeah, create those new disciplines. It reminds me, and I don't know, I'm gonna let you speak to, Sherry, of a quote that I read from Oprah. You can have it all, just not all the time, all at once. Maybe I said it wrong. Yes, you can have it all, just not all at once. And because of the price that we have to pay in order to maintain the balance or to achieve. So, Sherry, you want to add to this one? Truth?
Well, yes, I did. So for me, before I became a business owner, I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years, and I'm glad and I'm blessed to have had that opportunity to be home with my children. I was one of those moms that was always at the school volunteering. They knew my voice when I called the school. I was just very engaged with raising my children, and then even before then, I had no problem with working for someone, because I knew having your own, that was just too much work. That was just a lot of work. And I was cool with working for someone. But then during that, the process of me being a stay-at-home mom, and then when the whole ballooning thing came about, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll give this a try. And when I did, it just, like, literally, it blew up, like, right before my eyes. The scripture, I was praying over my children that God would do exceedingly abundantly, more than we could ask, think, or even imagine. And that's what I prayed for my children. And so, not trying to turn this into kind of a spiritual thing, but for me, it was God just unpacked that for me right before my eyes. And so for me to have said that, oh, I don't want to be a business owner, to now I'm a full-fledged business owner, it's just how my language changed. My mindset changed. So the cost of all of that is definitely my time, because I'm definitely not as engaged as I was before. because I'm always in the office, always, answering the phone and being a creative. It takes a lot of energy. It takes, because you're always thinking about, okay, what can I do different? How can I, enhance this? Whatever medium you choose to use. And so doing that, it costs time with my family. And I felt like a bad parent as well. With my girls are still home. My son has moved out and he's doing his thing. But my girls are here. My oldest daughter, she turned 16. She got her license and got a job. And she was determined to do that. But that left my 14-year-old at home, and her sister was gone, and I'm in the office. So what is it left for her to do? She's sitting on her phone, and I would walk through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I would try to pull her out, but ballooning is not her thing. That's not what she wants to do. So I felt bad, and I was trying to find dance classes for her to participate in, or spend time with her friends, but they were doing whatever. So it became a true struggle, trying to be even my 14-year-old's playmate. Like, okay, well, come on, let's go and do something. But by the time she was not engaged, she was on her phone doing her thing, and I was out in the office doing my thing. So then that's when I gave her the cookbook, and she took to that. And she's a true servant. So she wanted to serve us. She wanted to cook for us. She wanted us to give her those accolades and build her up. And so that's what we did. But the cost, my time, most definitely. My sleep, most definitely. Because I would lose sleep thinking about ideas. I would rise early to make sure that I have all of the orders done and all of that. So it is definitely a cost in being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I couldn't say yes enough to that one. It is definitely a cost. It's a reward that's associated with it. The freedom that you have, like Tanisha spoke of, the freedom that you have, the choice that you can make where you put your time on, but it still is a cost. I would love to dig a little deeper in the fact that as women, why do we oftentimes feel so guilty? Like everybody said a little bit about that in each one of us. We feel so guilty when we are selfish with our time. But we don't have time, and then maybe that's a topic for a future Lunch Connect. So we're gonna round the corner for our last one, truth today, and we'll see if I can get it to project, or maybe I'll just have to tell it to you guys. It seems to be in slow motion today. But our last truth, and then we'll see what the panelists have to offer. See, it didn't advance. Work-life balance is personal. What's balanced for me may not be balanced for you. It is personal. And with this one, I want our panelists to add in that personal part of it is your strategy. We heard a little bit about delegating things, and all three of you have delegated, whether it be cooking your meals, cleaning your floors, or just delegating staff development stuff in it. But say what some of your strategies that you use in order to achieve that balance. So that's our third one, truth or lie. It is a truth because you're going to tell me your truth to kind of.
My truth is.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll jump in with it's personal, starting with just in the morning time. I know Sherry said she didn't want to get, spiritual on the call, and everyone has different beliefs and backgrounds, but just starting my day with scriptures or readings just to ground myself, to be intentional about my day. And it's personal, like that space and that time is personal. And so I'm intentional about that. It's my truth. It helps me in my work-life balance. So that would be number one, is just, always giving thanks, always being, no matter what is going on, that seems to be falling apart, I'm giving thanks in no matter what. Like I have a roof over my head, like it can't be that bad. You drive past I-20 and people have tents lined up as their homes. And so putting things in perspective, I have the things that I have and I work really hard for, nothing is so bad that I'm just completely falling apart. So being intentional about giving thanks and being grateful, that's a personal choice of mine. I'm teaching it to my 9-year-old who complains he doesn't have the latest game or whatever, Fortnite, whatever thing that he needs. And I'm like, you do realize you're holding a $300 gaming system, right? Okay, Let's start there. So just being grateful in everything that we do is a personal choice for me. And then also just trying to be present in the moment. I tell people all the time, be present where your feet are. And what that means, I would tell my students, you're on the phone, you're doing multiple things. You're not present where your feet are. So it's personal for me. If we're having lunch, like I'm one of those friends, like if we go to lunch, you can't be on your phone. You just can't. Like if I'm taking a time out an hour to be with you and this is our time together, be present with me, be present in the moment. And so like for right now, like my goal this week is to be present with my son. Like literally I planned this trip before Andrea asked me to be on the call. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we're planning to leave out. So I literally pushed up us leaving and driving, to Orlando at 4 a.m. just so I could be sitting where I am now to be doing this call. But once I pack this up, like I'm Aiden's for, the rest of the day, at least, and tomorrow into my next call that comes up on Thursday. And so just being intentional of where I am, where my feet are, and carving that time out to who it belongs to in that moment. So it's definitely personal.
Love it. Love it.
And for me, learning how to say no, because my time is very valuable, and and it took me a long time to learn that no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
I don't have to give an explanation of why I can't do it or what's going on. Just no, and being comfortable with saying no and standing my ground. Because some days I feel like I'm being pulled in so many different directions, and learning I like what Tanisha said, just being present wherever your feet are, because we get so wrapped up and so caught up in so many different things that she's right, we're not present. But taking that time to be there and to spend time, eye contact, looking at people, listening, actively listening to people, not just passively, yeah, but actively listening to whatever the conversation is going on, and but mainly knowing how to say no.
Yeah.
And being comfortable with that.
Love it.
Love it too.
Joy?
It's been personal for me as well. So certainly a truth. What I had to start doing, because in the first few days we were all in our sweatpants, and your sweatpants will make you think all is well in the kingdom. And it is not. So I had to start picking up in the morning, starting to walk. And so I initially started because I was like, look, I'm not buying new clothes after COVID. But what I found, just as I think it was Tanisha said, that was my time. And that was my time to put my headphones on and walk and sing terribly out loud, but then also to give worship and prayer and just kind of, ground myself. And I still do that. And so that is, that's just kind of how, I'm sorry, y'all, I can only hold your mouth.
It's real.
Work-life balance. Balance.
Yes.
I can only hold it on for so long. But anyway, that's how I have achieved that, and that's made it personal for me, that's my time in the morning, that I kind of do that, and it helps me to function a little better throughout the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow?
So I agree with all of these, morning rituals and commitments, because I have them for myself as well. I meditate in the morning, and sometimes if I don't get to do that, then I'll feel it internally and I'll feel off. And then I have to make time to go and do that so that I can rebalance. But what's important to me, the reason why it's personal to me, is because it's when you have those moments of reflection. I also journal during the evening before I close my eyes, because I want to make sure I acknowledge, what I accomplished and what I'm grateful for as well. But I just need to ensure that every day if there's one thing that I do, right, that brings me joy, that made me smile, that made me happy, that I said this was part of my self-care today, it's outside of my morning ritual. Right. But it's about that, being conscious with myself and, just, grounding and saying, okay, I did this for me. I did everything for everyone else. Right. Because when we talk about your energy and your time, which I try and protect as much as I can, but I'm giving my energy to other people, right? So how do I fill back up? How do I replenish myself? And so it is very personal, and it's important to me to communicate to others and make sure that those around me understand why it's important to me. And then my question back to them is, okay, so what do you need? What can I give you to make sure that, if, for example, my son is coming home at 5, okay, Dad, this is your gym time. If my daughter needs, she just needs to talk, right? And that's part of our one-on-one engagement, so that she feels like I'm there and available for her emotionally. I have to provide that time and give it to her.
Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you for sharing your truths, and it's personal. So I hope everyone on the call has picked up nuggets along the way, from whether it be delegating, whether it be stealing out that time in the morning, in the evening that you need. So I'm going to get ready to unmute or allow you to unmute yourselves. If there are questions, you can drop them in the chat or raise your hand. Maybe that will be easier. Raise your hand. And then I can unmute you or give you permission to unmute so you can ask your question to our panelists. Any questions? Any hands raised? Let's see. As I'm scrolling through.
Dr. Jones, while people are thinking about their questions,
Yes.
I know they have them, so we'll wait for them to pop in there. But I want to give one more nugget, because
Yes,
I think
please.
Tamara just hit on something really important about giving your energy. Beware of energy zappers.
Mm-hmm.
There are people, whether they are your clients, whether they're your friends or your family members, that will zap the energy, and that will be intrusive in that way, right? And so you want to be sure that you are guarding your space and your headspace against those energy zappers. And then you have to figure out how to manage them at an arm's length or in a way that they're not completely always draining you. So that would be a nugget in balancing as well.
That's a good one. Energy zappers. And we all are probably thinking in our heads now, oh my gosh, that person, every time I'm with them, I feel drained. Right. And they're also energy givers too. There are people that you can be around, and when you're with them, you get creative and you think outside the box because of the energy kind of around them. So thank you for adding that one. I didn't see any questions come in the box, but I'm full of questions, because I said every one of these sessions are for me too. So I'd love any tips or tricks that you guys use, from whether it is the way you handle your calendar, or maybe you outsource your calendar, but any kind of tips or tricks that could be helpful for me and for people on the line.
Yeah. I use my calendar every day. Everything is in my calendar. And so I have two. I have a personal calendar, and then of course I have my work calendar. And I know some people put everything together, but when I separate them, that allows me to compartmentalize. This is work, this is home. And so, but what I've always been a person that wrote things down, but I've really had to be intentional, during this period of putting everything into that electronic calendar, and then those alarms that go off, and you're supposed to do this. So those are tips that I've used, and it's not anything that probably everyone on this call has not done, but when you hear it stated again, it just reminds you, because I think that we're so used to being super women that we think we can just remember everything. Yep. Or that we got it all handled. This is something I do all the time. But for me, I'm a visual learner, so putting that in front of me and having those kinds of reminders helps me to really stay on track. So definitely my calendar.
Thank you. And we have a question from Priscilla. You can, you're unmuted. You can ask your question.
So I think it's just a comment or encouragement as I listen to the four speakers, is that I think as an older person on this, that it is important that you learn that you are important, and that it is okay to put yourself first. And a lot of times mothers feel like I always have to put my child first, or I always have to put my husband first. but there are times that it is okay. Absolutely. I love when she said about the no, to say no to other members of our family. And that can be the hard thing for us. But there are times I had to learn that, and I have learned the only way that, and this is my personal, the only way I could give myself totally to what I knew God had called me to do was to put me and him first. And sometimes that meant a no to my children or to my husband or to my mother or to others. And I think the earlier you learn that that's not being selfish, but that's taking care of you. It's being authentic to who you are. I think that helps us with that balance that we need. And I just wanted to throw that out there.
It's selfless.
Thank you. Yes.
Very good. Yes.
Thank you for sharing. I think that's a great point. And how many times we have told that we put our mask on first.
Mhm.
Awesome. Any other questions from the audience? Like I'm Oprah. Any questions from the audience? You guys can drop in the chat or raise your hand. Go ahead,
I just
Sherry.
wanted to say that I know this may be simple, but it's just so important. I tell my kids all the time, treat people how you want them to treat you. And so if you're talking to each other nasty, then that's saying, that's how I want you to treat me. But if I'm talking to you with, I'm being gentle, I'm being kind, being nice and polite, and I'm going out of the way if I can to do something for you, that lets that person know, this is the way that I want you to treat me. This is the way I expect you to treat me and nothing else. And so just being intentional about that as well, not being nasty and, even talking negative about people. We're not the judge. So if that's what they're doing, you don't necessarily have to have anything to say, but just, you can have your own thoughts about it, but just really treating people how you want them to treat you.
Absolutely. Any other last minute thoughts as I get ready to wrap up from our panelists?
Be kind to yourself.
Yes. Be
Remember
kind.
that always. Give yourself some grace.
Yep. And recognize also that some days you're going to mess up and you don't have a balance and you're all off track, and it's okay. It's just like when you fall off from anything else, just get back up, do it again the next day.
That's right. That's right. Anything else? Don't let me be a distraction because I'm sharing my screen. You can still share. Just takes a while. All right. Well, please join me in really thanking our panelists. I think you guys did a superb job. And I think we're all looking to achieve balance. And so I thank you for your time, but I also thank you for your knowledge and your transparency and how you have been handling it. So for those on the call, please join me in July for the next Brown Bag virtual lunchtime session. The topic, it was one that actually came out of the survey from last month. So please complete your survey because it helps me decide on which one. I think all the topics are great, but it helps me to understand what people think is important. So our next topic is the power of mentorship. So if you're looking to understand mentorship, not only as a mentor, but as a mentee, maybe you're mentoring on the job, you need mentoring on the job, or are mentor on the job, or if you're mentoring young people. This panel will take a multi-approach look at mentorship because I'll have representatives from youth to people who are entering the workforce, all the way to on the job and you're a career professional and still need mentoring, all the way down to a small business owner, because I have walked through that entire journey and mentorship looks different. So within the next 24 hours, you'll get a survey. Also, this recording will be available to you if you want to go back and just hear those nuggets. And if my panelists are okay, we're going to share your contact information and your social media handles, especially for my entrepreneurs that are on the call, because I think it's great. We all promote each other's business. So I'll share that one. So if you take a moment, had a good time today, go ahead and use the hashtags. Hashtag Dr. Andrea or hashtag Brown Bag Series in your comments. Any other parting thoughts from my panelists?
For the opportunity.
Yeah,
To
thank
be
you.
a part of the panel today.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
It's good to
And
be in good company. And so I think that's a part of, the journey as well, making sure that you are in good company to help you keep you balanced as well.
Absolutely.
yes. So thank you all for joining. And if you're interested in any other services offered by IDG Vision Consulting and Training, that is my company. And I do anything from coaching to workshop development and other things. Please do log in and check me out. So thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for joining me for lunch today. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.